no black metal band is going to call themselves Mother Goose.
Walk on Hampstead Fair, came upon Mother
Although, I mean,
Goose.
some Mother Gooses are pretty
So I
dark.
turned her
He
loose.
is a magician. He is a musician.
He's a magician. I didn't even ask him about that.
He's a musician. Fuck, what is wrong with me?
We thought you could use some Tupperware from 1973. And we also have a nice plastic tote of Coke. No. We also have a nice plastic tote of Coke. Dancing in the moonlight.
Sitting on a ball?
On this long, hot summer night. Mark's got a funky one.
This is Alan from Primordial telling you that you are listening to Snaggletooth Decay podcast, and my advice is don't get a life.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.
From the habaneros?
Yeah.
I would hope so.
That was a bit of an oversight. We have so many habaneros.
We're looking actually at how to incorporate them into our cocktails.
You know it's bad when you're trying to drink a habanero.
It's just our bumper crop this year. Yeah. Every time I go out there, there's an eruption of 10 more. We're putting them in our omelets. We're putting them in our sandwiches. We're getting food from like delis and stuff. And after it gets delivered, we're like, got to weave in the habaneros into the sandwich. We have so many.
So many out there. I've given away like 2 bags at work. I think they're done with me and the habaneros.
Usually when we have vegetables out in the garden, some will be eaten by, rabbits or deer, just so you'll see they ate most of them. One habanero had 1 bite taken out of it, and I think it killed whatever it was that tried to eat it. It was just like, something like that. Some poor errant dead squirrel is out there.
I was making sure I was doing
mouth on fire.
Something, washing dishes, something that would really douse everything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll rub it in my eye.
You rub your eyeball. We've covered this many times. Yes. Is there a fly? God, I hope that doesn't come through in the audio.
That was
It's getting kind of late in the season for there to be flies.
The flog. That fly was as big as the Hindenburg.
Flies live for what, like 2 weeks?
I don't know. Let's ask the Google monster.
Ask it.
Okay, Google. How long does a housefly live?
The lifespan of a housefly is on average 0.08 years.
Years.
That's a really weird way of saying it. 0.0. That's going to require math. You'd have to take 365.
I'm going to go with 2 weeks. Okay.
Why would you put that like that?
I mean, us and the Google machine. Thanks for something completely useless as far as an answer goes. Anyway, so
I don't even know how many zeros that was to figure that out.
All right.
365 divided by, what do you say, 0.08.8 years?
365
so weird.
divided by.
I didn't know the life of a housefly was going to be a percentage of a year. It's really weird. Like I said, this is going to require some math. God damn it.
29.2 days. So it's almost a month.
Almost a month, unless.
Why not just say that? Anyway, so this flies are so gross. I mean, they vomit on their food and they suck up the dissolved gunk, as we all saw in the movie. Like they live for, I guess, a month. So it always made me wonder.
Allegedly.
Yeah, who came up with the phrase?
If our math is correct.
Who came up with the phrase, I'd like to be a fly on the wall for that meaning? I would. Or, of course, then there's Lord of the Flies. I really don't think that would be much better.
Well, I think the fly on the wall is supposed to mean like you're eavesdropping, but you're there, but you're not seen. But everybody always sees a fly. You just end up getting your ass squashed to your brain. I mean, think about it.
Well, I mean, flies, they serve an important purpose. They
do.
Consuming decaying plant and animal matter, I guess.
And bothering cattle. I think they're rather adept at bothering cattle.
Well, when it comes to consuming decaying plant and animal matter, I was looking for like a human equivalent, and I came up with deadheads. We used to have this deadhead guy that lived in our dorm back in college, and we would go to the cafeteria together. It was like 5 of us, and whatever was left on our plates, he would just.
Oh my God!
It was pretty gross. But he could bang out some great Jethro Tull songs, though. I'll tell you what, on guitar.
We used to do that the year I went to Girl Scout summer camp, and we thought it was a good idea to take care of animals.
Mm-hmm.
It was a farm camp. Like you could pick what theme camp you wanted to go to. Of course, me with animals, I picked farm. My mother sent me with all new clothes, all brand new clothes. First day, I was slopping the pigs, which was like this kid. We just literally we scraped all our plates into this bucket, and then we would slop the
Yeah,
pigs
Keith-
after we ate.
Keith would have loved it. He would have been head first. In it. So,
And I'm slopping the pig, and he's just taking a gigantic crap on my brand new white kids.
nice.
I came home. I think my mother burned everything in the suitcase. So that ended sending me with brand new clothes. But that probably attracted a great number of flies as well. The flies are always around the livestock and the animals. I think that's why they have tails and we don't.
Yeah. You ever see like one of those flies that's like it's been stuck in a house for a few days and it's sort of like the Hindenburg. It's just like sort of half slow steaming along. Sort of like me after a couple glasses of wine.
Or it kind of looks like it picks up speed if it farts and then it stops.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna get there. Bzzz. Fruit flies. You ever have fruit flies?
They
They-
come out of nowhere.
I think if you when you're bagging up your produce at the grocery store, that's where they come from. 'Cause
We've
they'll
had
be
them
buzzing
in
around.
the office.
Well, I think it comes from the grocery store though. I do, and I can never get rid of them. Like there's a million YouTube videos about how you can make your own fruit fly traps, and none of them ever worked.
Mm.
And I'd go open up the thing where the trash can was, and they come buzzing out, and just I bought fruit fly traps from Amazon. None of them worked. There were these
No.
little yellow sticky things you were supposed to put around the house that it never attracted them.
There's so many recipes online, like how you can get rid of flies and fruit flies. And one of them's like this concoction of vinegar and wine.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's supposed to attract them. It smells like decomposition or something.
Yeah.
Decomposition.
You know how
fruit.
we used to deter them when we had the outside seating at the restaurant?
Hmm.
We had a
Flies or fruit flies?
either.
Either one. Okay.
We would have a solution of chlorine and water, like watered down chlorine. And if you spray the table with that, like it was the outside tables,
Yeah.
they don't like the smell of it. And then I'll keep them off it for a while until the food comes. Then you're just back to flies.
So I was trying to think about. I really detest fruit flies. I was trying to think of like a human equivalent, and I came up with in-laws. My former in-laws were pop buyers.
Oh,
They love the pop buy. And there's nothing that will get on my nerves worse when I was like painting or putting in a toilet or something than an unexpected pop buy.
Oh
And
my
also
God.
here, the pop buys were not social. The pop buys only happened when they were cleaning out their attic or their house and they found junk and they were giving us their crap. So it would be like, they'd ring the bell and I'd answer the door. And it didn't matter how mean I was. They were just like, we thought you could use some Tupperware from 1973 that your father-in-law found.
wow.
And a plastic tote of clothes hangers. You're welcome. And I'd be
Although-
like, I'm painting right now.
I
Why are
will
you here?"
say that original name brand Tupperware lasted forever. It's not like the plastic
Oh,
containers we have
yeah.
today. That's stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that they actually dropped some off, and it was like iron the way it was
Yeah.
made. I mean, that stuff they weren't fucking around back then.
You know, my mom and dad never like really did that unless I asked for something. But mom was always big on the yard sale, which is a whole nother phenomenon
Oh, yeah.
where you
That's
put your junk on the front lawn and
that's a
hope
social
somebody
experiment.
pays you money for it. You always have the one guy who's there at 6 a.m. and you have something marked $20. He's like, I'll give you a nickel.
Yeah.
You're like, no, you're here. I'm wow.
I was
But,
never for the yard sale, but
she was always appalled. She had this gorgeous crystal punch bowl and glasses from the 50s or
Hmm.
60s. And she was appalled. Everybody at the yard sale stopped to comment on how gorgeous it was, and not one person even put in a bit on it.
the punch bowl.
The punch bowl. I think punch bowls are a little passe.
Because we're
mean-
not going to the fucking Mayberry class reunion of 1963. Nobody uses punch bowls anymore.
I think after the whole like Tylenol thing where everything has to have a seal and then COVID, I
don't
think punch bowls are
Yeah, I
bad.
don't think we're putting our head in the punch bowl. No.
But
No, definitely not.
yeah.
No. Anyway, so
Besides, flies could get in it.
floating, backstroking in it. Here, have some of the punch. Yeah.
Oh, I had that horrible experience. I had a glass of wine
Yeah.
and I put it down to go to the bathroom and I came back and took a sip. There was a fly in it.
Oh,
Ah!
nasty.
I was
Ugh.
like, I'll just get a fresh one.
So so then you go to spiders. Spiders are supposed to eat flies. At least I saw that in the movie, right? So, I mean, and some people are scared to death of spiders. You ever see somebody that thinks they have a bug on them and they freak out?
I
It's
was
great.
never super scared of spiders.
Yeah, me either.
I always thought they are eating something nastier that you don't want.
They're not very efficient at it, though. You have too many spiders and too many flies, and it just doesn't. It's like in India. In India, they have a cobra problem infestation and they have a rat infestation. You would think that one would take care of the other, but it doesn't work that way. So,
talk about your dumbass Google stuff. I had one time, I went down to the garden and there was this gorgeous, just bright yellow and black spider with her web in my garden.
Right.
And I'm watering it, talking to her. She was so beautiful. I'm like, I don't want to bother you. You can stay right there. It's fine. You're probably eating aphids. So I used the Google thing where you can take a picture and it'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
It said it was a yellow garden spider. I'm like, I could have.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would have called it because it's a yellow spider in my garden. But thank you, Google.
We sort of already had that information. Yeah. So I'll tell you what, back at the old house, when I lived in Bel Air, we had woods behind the house and we had kind of a wolf spider problem. And, the kids were little, like my youngest was really little. And I would just find them like one would spin a web across the basement, the entire door, this big old fucking spider right in the middle. And there were a few times that I went to go throw the trash out and I almost put my face right in it, and I caught one crawling up the side of the crib. So again, I don't have anything against spiders, but I did eventually call an exterminator about it. But before I get to that, I had a rivalry with a spider. There was a giant, there's this huge spider that I named Seymour. He lived in the dryer vent. I had to swap out the dryer vent. And I remember when I was doing it from outside, I thought, if I was a spider, where would I want to live? A dryer vent. It's clean, warm. And sure enough, he was there. Yeah, so that was Seymour. We had a kind of a back and forth. There was one time I was climbing up a ladder. I had to paint some stuff up on the roof. So I had like paint in one hand and a brush, and the other hand I'm on the ladder. And I noticed Seymour's on my fucking shoulder. And I remember thinking to myself, luckily I'm not one of these freak out people or I would have been dead because I was almost all the way up there.
God.
And I just remember thinking, well, if he bites me and the left side of my face goes numb, that's better than me falling to my death. So I managed to get rid of him and still get the painting done. So
we used to have a spider in our bathroom. It was just a little yellow spider. He was usually on the ceiling of the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And when I was giving my son a bath when he was probably about 3 or 4, he was a little scared of him. I said, oh, and I sang him the whole Boris the Spider, song.
John Entwistle of The Who, in case you were wondering.
Creepy crawly. So it got to be like he was our little bathroom. And every time, I'm washing his hair, he'd look up at the ceiling and there'd be Boris and we'd sing the song. And we were walking in the bathroom one day and he's getting undressed for his bath and he looks and there's a dead spider on the floor and he absolutely started bawling.
Oh, he was that upset about the spider being dead.
Yeah, but I told him, that's not Boris. And sure enough, there was another one on the ceiling. I'm like, look, there he is. He's fine.
You know who does a really good cover of Boris the Spider?
Yeah.
The Accused.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'll have to play one day on the show. So remember the original movie from like the 50s, The Fly? Really weird movie. Like for the kid's name, first of all, is Toulouse.
Toulouse.
And I think even in France, you're going to get your ass kicked at school with that name. Just god awful. And Vincent Price is in it, but he's not scary at all. And at the end, to get rid of the fly head and the claw, he goes to like this industrial press and he puts his head in there. He has his wife crush them in industrial vice.
Seems a little over the
Wouldn't
top.
it still be there? It would just be squished.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a strange ending. The Misfits have an awesome song called Return of the Fly, which I've heard is a much better movie, but I've never seen it. Have you ever seen Return of the Fly? I think he's like a bad guy in Return of the Fly. Readers, listeners, viewers, give us a comment on Return of the Fly. Is that any good? Oh, anyway, but we're talking about exterminators, right? So we called exterminator for the spiders. All right. And by the way, I think exterminators are fascinating in terms of profession. It's sort of like weathermen with chemicals, right? They come with their Ghostbusters thing and they spray some secret liquid into random corners of the house. And if the bugs don't go away, you just call them and they do it again. It's
They always want to sell you the service. Like they have to. I just want you to spray once and be done.
Right. It's sort of like the other professions where there are no concrete results that anything was done. Like weathermen, they can be wrong all the time.
Yeah, they would always say that they bill me and say they come serviced. Who knew?
Right. Psychics and tarot readers. Actually, I think I would have more satisfaction in a tarot reader than I would a exterminator. Contactless massages.
That's really weird.
And some would argue chiropractors are kind of like snake oil salesmen.
I worked for a chiropractor very briefly, just part-time, helping them out with their billing. And he was still seeing patients. And basically, I could hear what was going on. It seemed like he was taking them through a series of yoga poses. I was like, why wouldn't you just do yoga?
Yeah.
You're paying him to step you through yoga poses? And then he would do this thing with the stick, and you could hear the stick. And then he'd tell them to stretch. And I'm like, all right.
Well, anyway, so I was getting back to, I got off track there, but we called the exterminator to get rid of the spiders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he comes to the house and he said that they don't spray for spiders because they spray for the bugs that the spiders eat. Then those bugs die and the spiders leave willingly. And I just remember thinking, what is this, like a fucking grocery store under different management? Like there's going to be 2 spiders and they're having a meeting in the house. And one says to the other, I just don't feel like there's this selection here that they used to have. It was like, I want these fucking things killed. I don't want them to leave willingly. They've changed chefs. I don't like it there anymore. Really? Yeah, I was very off put by that. Yeah. What about your flea? Remember your flea problems?
Yeah, we got fleas horrible in the basement one time, and I tried everything to get rid of them. They were literally, if you stood in the basement in white socks, you could just watch them jump on your feet.
It's hard to feel like you're winning in life with fleas hopping around your ankles.
But it was so weird. They weren't upstairs, and we have carpet down here, so finally, after trying several store-bought bombs, which didn't do anything, the fleas.
Another phantom device, right?
The fleas were. They told you to keep it away from pets, so I shut the basement door and put a towel there, like it was some kind of toxic chemical. The fleas were just like, "That was great. Can we have more?"
More snake oil, yeah.
They didn't even put a dent in it, so I finally gave up and called Terminex. And they came out, and I told the guy, I'm vacuuming every day and blah, blah, blah. And he said that vacuuming actually causes the eggs to hatch faster. I almost cried.
What a lose-lose.
I'm encouraging them. I'm making their numbers
basically
greater.
You're incubating them.
And basically what he told me is the reason they weren't upstairs is because it's all wood surfaces.
Yeah.
And when the flea eggs hit sunlight,
they
die or they don't germinate. But down here where there's not a lot of direct sunlight and carpet, see upstairs I mop, and that kills them too.
Carpet's just
it's nasty.
It's just a substance to contain germs.
We're gonna get rid of the carpet down here.
Yeah, we are, and then we'll have to move the podcast because the acoustics will suck. So, but you know what? The whole time you were telling that story, it made me think about. Sorry, because my mind is this weird tendency to do this. Who the fuck came up with the idea of a flea circus?
That's weird.
So here it's like, so you have these microscopic skin biting bugs, and somebody said, "Oh, this would be adorable on a little Ferris wheel." Or let's get it to juggle bowling pins. People were fucking bored back in the 1800s or whatever.
Well, no,
who came up with that?
Think about the 80s. Everywhere in on the back of your cereal box or in like a comic book, you would see this ad for sea monkeys, and they would all be smiling. And they
what was it exactly? Was it like powder and you put water to it or something?
It looked like little tiny shrimp when they came, and they just kind of hatched and then they kind of swam, and that was it. There was no sea monkeys with human faces waving at each other playing baseball. It was such a ripoff.
Okay, Google, what animal are sea monkeys?
Brine shrimp. On the website livescience.com, they say sea monkeys are a hybrid breed of brine shrimp called Artemia nios, produced in 1957 by Harold von Braunhut, according to the
Okay, Google, stop.
That was a little too much information.
She'll go on for days. What about like ant farms? You ever know anybody had an ant farm?
I think I was going to get one for the kids when we went through that whole insect lore. Yes, there is a place where you can go online and get insects shipped to you for fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a I thought it'd be a cool idea to get a praying mantis. It's like you get a sack of and they hatch. So they give you this little zip up kind of, it looks like a little tiny zip up tent to put them in that has mesh you can see into. And we waited. We finally looked in there one day. There must have been 300 teeny tiny praying mantises in this thing. So we very carefully took it outside and opened it, and they left. I don't know why I thought they were going to stay in our yard.
They are the Tyrannosaurus Rex of the insect world. Just
Yeah. So it was right near the end of the year. I was outside. It was, getting to be this time of year, like fall, and one was on our door frame. I figured he came to say peace out.
at the old house again, the one with wolf spiders.
Thank you for the fishes.
3 separate times I went out the front door and a fucking praying mantis jumped on my head. And they were big. The third time, I didn't freak out, but I did shake it off, and I thought, does my hair smell really good to praying mantises or something? Well, so anyway, ant farm is just like you take a bunch of ants and dirt and a window pane and see what happens.
You can see them dig their tunnels and stuff if you're super bored. I suppose.
I always think of ant farms when I go to the cell phone store and it's real busy, like all the ants behind the counters doing everything, the people complaining.
It's kind of what it looks like at the Apple store.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of bugs, more on bugs. How many jokes about bugs are these guys going to do? Incidentally, I had to do an insect collection. I think it was like sophomore year. I, of course, I didn't pay attention, and there were some substances involved or whatever when they were telling me how to do it. But is that what you call an insect when you pin them to the paper? What's it called? Is that insect collection? Okay.
And you had to identify them. I remember doing it.
I didn't pay any attention, of course. So when it came time the night before, and you're supposed to put like a cotton ball with alcohol in and
baby food jar. I use
baby food jar and the fumes kill the bug, and then you can pin it right. Well, I didn't know how to do that right. So I think I tried to use like a nail polish remover or something. And basically when I turned it in, all my bugs were still wiggling on the paper.
God.
Yeah. I turned it in. I was so ashamed of it because I'm like, my fucking bugs are still alive. And some of the other kids actually had their bugs posed. I thought, you fucking teachers' pets.
Well, I was, running around my mother's garden, of course, collecting a great variety of bugs. And somebody had a baby and, of course, got all these baby food jars. I'm putting the isopropyl alcohol in there. And then my method was I only had so many jars, and you had to get all these different bugs, and they all had to be different. It's like you could put 30 bees. They had to be different. So my thing was after they were dead, and before I mounted them, I had an empty egg carton, and I would put them in there so they didn't get messed up. And then go look for more bugs. So that night I'm half asleep in bed, and something in the egg carton that I thought was dead came roaring back to humming life. I was so freaked out. It was like the return of the zombie bee.
Yeah, I remember this when the cicadas were around. Remember that? They would just like attach themselves to you. And I had one morning, I think after I sent you off to work, and it must have attached itself to me, and you have no idea. And I went upstairs and I was going to the bathroom. All of a sudden, it was like a fucking helicopter landing. It went scared the shit out of me. So loud. Anyway, all right. Since we've covered the insect kingdom in excruciating detail, maybe we should introduce the show.
Maybe a little music stuff.
How
about that?
And what are we, like 25 minutes in? So why don't you do it? You can introduce the interview.
So we would like to introduce our feature interview with the Irishman Alan Averill, a man not known for his dancing.
I've heard that.
But however, for those of you who are not familiar, he absolutely needs no introduction. He is a musician, a lyricist, a producer, a mixer and mastering engineer. You may have heard of his band Primordial. Great band. He is a staff writer for 0 Degree Tolerance. He was an artist, although we found out that was quite
some time ago. He worked for Metal Blade for a while too, right? I think he still does do something for them, yeah.
He has a label, Poison Tongue Records. He's in so many projects, and also his podcast, which someone here likes a lot, Agitators Anonymous.
Yeah.
So
I would put Primordial in the same category of like an amorphous type of band, just very intelligent, heavy music with a lot of history woven in and kind of the regional folk of past centuries as a backbone. But for me, I'm kind of a Dread Sovereign man. That's his kind of doomy pentagrammy side project with all the witches, bitches, etc. So yeah, there's a major Thin Lizzy geek out in this interview. History of his music and career, and we go down quite a few musical rabbit holes. So we actually had to split the show into 2 parts. So what you're going to see in this show is actually part 1 of the interview, and then you've got that coming up. So why don't we play a song? I have one desire, let it be a pestilence upon your lands, a plague upon all your houses. It is my wish to enslave all your people, the soil enriched with their blood, to burn your palaces of worship. Our gods shall become your gods. This is Primordial from the 2000 album Spirit, the Earth Aflame. This is Gods to the Godless.
I'm not a man known for his dancing.
Let's talk about Patreon.
Long live Primordial.
Yeah. So I started sticking some stuff up there. I started messing around with the tiers. Our very first tier is going to be, if you would like to contribute $6.66 a month to us, the tier that I call Dying to Meet You. Then you'll start to get access to some behind the scenes videos that we've put together. I put a couple up. I already put up something about the Alan Averill interview that's very funny. Some background stuff from some of our Lords of the Trident hijinks.
There may just be more corpse paint photos. We don't know.
Photos. I'll do some more record reviews.
And Halloween's coming up.
Stace is going to do some stuff video wise that you can't see anywhere near the show. So it's www.patreon.com/Snaggletooth podcast. There are features that transcend both shows. So get on over there. And while you're at it, check out our Instagram. Today I posted 2 reviews. I posted the first Arcturus EP on Decay. And I can't remember what I posted on Rock and Roll. It was excellent, whatever it was. So get right over there now and check it out.
My reviews... remember, like, comment. Don't be I always dislike,
hit subscribe, please.
I dislike people who just troll through your page and don't comment. Don't be one of those people. That doesn't take any effort. Put some smarts behind it. Say something. Be something.
As I always say, we are cool. Give us money. So. Okay. The sound. It's time for blaspheming monikers. Stacy's favorite.
Wait, is this me?
This is you.
Oh, yeah. Can we get a call-in guest?
We had an hour and a half with Alan. I wasn't going to hit him with this shit too. I mean, good God. So, all right, here we go. Blaspheming monikers. Let me get the metal archives up here. So here are your choices.
Oh. Saltines. I love that band. They're kind of bland though, but everyone seems to like them.
Too salty for me. Okay. Here are your choices. Blaspheming monikers. One of these 4 bands does not exist.
Oh my God.
Number 1, Luciferian Piss Castle. I think I've been there. I think they closed it though. I think it was an amusement park, kind of like what was that one up in PA? The amusement park.
Enchanted Forest?
Enchanted Forest. Yeah. I think they call it Luciferian Piss Castle now. Okay. Number 2, the Wizard of Bong Mountain. I've met him. He's a pretty sharp guy, actually. He stopped at York College for a while.
Better than the Wizard of Bung Mountain.
Yeah, that is it. The Wizard of Bong Mountain.
No, Bung.
Oh, well, no.
That's a whole different thing.
No, but I think the Wizard of Bong Mountain actually sat at my cafeteria table also. And he was also disgusted at the way Keith ate our food. So, number 3, ball sack warfare. I'm not even going to make a joke about that.
That could be Bung Mountain.
And then Mother Goose.
Going back to the Enchanted Forest.
Yeah. So there's 2 links to the Enchanted Forest there. So drum roll, please. Stace, which one is fake?
Oh my God. I'm going to go with ball sack warfare.
Let's check it out.
I'm going to say that is not a thing. It sounds like hacky sack. And who has ball sack warfare? That's kind of counterproductive.
Sounds painful to me. Oh, look at that. They're from Indonesia. They have they've been active from 2017 to present.
Fairly new for their ball sack.
They've got 2 promos. That's quite a there's a promo and then the ball sack warfare self-titled demo. Very almost kind of like population reduction sort of artwork here. Yeah.
Mm.
Songs, Chainsaw, Gonad Consumption, Gore, Gray Erectus. So yeah, these guys are legit. Looks like.
Intestines expelled. Let's.
Yeah. Ballsack warfare. Okay.
I was wrong.
One down. Let's try another one.
All right, let's see if I can get it right this time. I'm going with Mother Goose. That could not possibly be a no black metal band is going to call themselves Mother Goose.
Walk on Hampstead Fair, came upon Mother
Although I mean,
Goose.
some Mother Gooses are pretty
So I
dark.
turned her loose.
Going back to the Enchanted Forest,
She was
everything there
screaming.
petrified me as a child when they had all the fairy tales reenacted, like Jonah and the whale. That scared the hell out of me. It was a whale with a little kid inside talking to you.
Sorry, I went into Jethro Tull mode there for a moment.
Yay!
Did I spell it wrong? Oh, mohair goose.
Oh, mohair. There are no mohair gooses. Really? There's a Mother Goose. Victim of Malice is a Mother Goose record?
They're from Japan.
Oh my God.
They are split up or maybe cooked.
The goose is cooked.
Victim of Malice is their album from 2005. Siren of Insanity. Nadir.
Child
Despair.
to Abuse.
Child to Abuse. What type of music is it? They play black metal.
Black
shockingly.
metal.
Black metal, and your band's called Mother Goose, really?
Lyrical. Insanity and abuse.
Okay.
Apparently they were abused by Mother
That's
Goose.
two
God.
down. It's two down.
Oh boy. All right, now I got a 50-50 shot, so I guarantee I'll get it wrong.
Okay.
I'll go with The Wizard of Bong Mountain, just because I don't think a lot of
All right, let's check it.
black metal guys are into Bong Mountain. I don't even think I'm going to get the consolation prize. I can feel it coming. Yep. I don't even get the frying pan.
Stoner Rock, no way. Would have never thought.
Bong? Who would have thought?
2019 album Bong Mountain.
They're active.
Yeah. They're instrumental.
Oh.
Oh my. Yeah. Oh, it's one guy.
Oh.
They're like everything. What's it? Chief Hashish. What's his real name? His name's Evan Barton. But he likes to go and look, he's also in a band called Under a Full Moon. This is like legit black metal. Chainsaw Disgorgement, Cult of the Black Witch, Delaying the Inevitable. There's a name. Emotionless Laceration. This is a busy man. Yeah. This guy needs to have
Neckbeard Death Camp.
This guy needs to hit the ball once in a while. Serial Pisser, Spilling Entrails, and The Wizard of Bong
Mountain.
This is a very Evan Barton.
He is the wizard of Bong Mountain.
So it appears that I have fooled Stace with Luciferian Piss Castle. That was a Mark Marchman original.
Really?
So this has been Blaspheming Monikers. Stace does not get the consolation prize. Okay. You want to introduce the next song?
Okay. Sorry.
Bonked yourself. Yeah.
There's a self-bonking.
Self-bonk.
That's going to be a black metal song. Self-bonking.
Yeah.
So we're going to play another song from last year's Crusher, Alchemical Warfare. This is Dread Sovereign's Great Ditty, The Great Beast We Serve.
I'm particularly excited that we're going to talk about this week's Imperfect Ad.
Oh my God.
Yes.
We almost killed ourselves. We recently made a commercial for Imperfect, which was much harder than it looked.
Yeah.
Especially when we were trying to do the stipulation from them is we had to dance around our kitchen.
And preferably show off some Imperfect products. And boy, did we.
We did, but we were also, during the filming behind the scenes, we tripped over a dog. I tripped over a dog treat. And Vladimir at some points put himself, he's our cat, he's our Russian blue, right in front of us and then decided to run through us like we were the gauntlet, tripping both of us. So
yeah, when we were working out or dancing in the kitchen or whatever, the animals are like, we want in, and it ends up with animals almost getting stepped on. But here's a clip from the ad. It's we went on a Cell Dweller Geek Out. Check it out.
Now our life is significantly better. Unpacking lamb chops and craft beer chatter.
And remember, click on our link to save yourself some money and get some yummy stuff. But don't try dancing around your kitchen with animals. Would not advise.
So it would appear I am now a man known for his dancing. Okay. Wax of contrition time. So I know normally I focus on vinyl, but I was putting stuff away and I thought, you know what, this is perfect for the show. I am a dyed in the wool fan of Die Catafalque, the genius of Thomas Katai. It's just been woven into my DNA for like the last 10 years. His blending of industrial metal, black metal, burbling jazz, crazy synth interludes. 1 minute he's storming Slayer style, and the next minute we're at a rave. So
1 minute it's saxophones, 1 minute it's partridge in a pear tree.
Exactly right. So this
Here, let me move my coffee.
Grail is a 13 CD box set that I'm going to probably pronounce it wrong, but it's called Cod Utanam, 40-page book, a previously unreleased EP, 3 bonus CDs, 2 which are Thomas's solo records, which I have not heard yet, and his new project, Neo Lunar, which, as Stace says, it's got jazz, dark wave, violins, and a partridge in a pear tree. So just a little bit, you got basically all of the early records, everything up through 2020. And then you have the discs, which are ensconced in this beautiful case. This is just more catafalque than any human should probably be subjected to. And this handy trapper keeper here. Just a little bit about some of the songs from the early records. I mean, Thomas is a master of, he builds these soundscapes and then he'll start pulling the rug out. So there'll be this storming black metal riff, and then some synths will slowly take it over, and then he'll pull the drums out, and then everything changes. And it's just the most gorgeous music. There's something about, he uses electronic drums, and the sound of that snare is just like Haagen-Dazs for my brain. It is incredible. Songs like Via Millennia from the early records. Pantarai is like 9 minutes of bubbling waves of metallic high drama.
Such a layered
sort of like
score.
Yeah, sort of like the best electronic Samael stuff, but with a little bit more of the folk interludes and the folk connection in a strange way, with the Hungarian folk overtones that pervade these records lyrically. They're sort of in the same conversation with an Amorphous or a Primordial. Die Catafalque is a band that is not for everyone, but for really true extreme music geeks like me. This is as good as it gets. So there's the genius. There's the man. We will have him on the show at some point. It will happen. So we're going to play a song from the 3rd record that I can't pronounce, and the song is called I Can't Pronounce It. So here it is.
But it's beautiful. So
it was so beautiful. Bubbling, almost like diet soda, just bubbling.
Oh God, the first time I ever tried diet soda, I thought I was gonna die. It seemed like such a good idea. And
Tab. It goes all the way back to Tab.
I was working some volunteer thing somewhere, and somebody was like offered me a tab, and I was kind of getting to be a teenager and starting to be a little weight conscious. So I thought, oh, and they always had such great commercials. I remember tab 1 calorie, water 0, tab cola.
Everyone was so happy bopping around. Yeah.
It just was like they're also happy. They're working out.
Dressed like the cast from Jaws 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, oh, so I'll try this. No, it was the worst. It was like cough syrup with the worst aftertaste that lasted for days. It was horrible.
Oh, not me. At that stage, I was like, diet soda, hell no. We were drinking Coke straight out of the 2 liters at that point. Yeah.
And then it went like the evolution, and then they went Diet Coke. Do you remember their ad campaign? just for the taste
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah.
it, Diet Coke. You know, they went to that. That was like, because I guess they were just like, yeah, we're not Tab. We actually taste
I
decent.
remember tell Bill Cosby to have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. I remember that. But
And then
you
they,
were into Diet Mountain Dew for a while, weren't you?
oh yeah, I was a hardcore Diet Mountain Dewer for years. But
That's like toxic waste, basically.
yeah, I think it makes your pee glow in the dark, pretty much. But it's very caffeinated. I would always have my coffee in the morning, and then at work by lunchtime, I would have to go to the Diet Mountain Dew. Or I was pretty big on Diet Coke for a long time too. I've since quit both, at the urging of my daughter. But now what's big is the seltzers and instead of putting something in it to make it taste sweet, they put nothing in it. There's no sugar, there's no nothing. There's,
I'm a big fan of the non-alcoholic seltzers. But as soon as you put alcohol in it, like the Truly and
Yeah.
all, it's like a chore to drink it. I just, Polar now, they have kids flavors for seltzer. Have you seen these?
yeah.
They have
Oh.
names like Unicorn Kisses, Mermaid Song, and Dragon Whispers. What the fuck does this stuff taste like? We don't even have food descriptors anymore. I'm in the mood for Dragon Whispers.
There used to be this cupcake shop in Towson, and I used to go in there because they had vegan cupcakes for my daughter. But I would walk by and they would have a sign. Cupcake flavor of the day was unicorn poop. I'm like, why do I not want that at all?
Oh my God.
No.
The word poop and food just doesn't go together.
Anyway.
Hey, Coke has a flavor called Dream now. So what the hell's going on? I'm completely lost.
Oh.
Apparently fruit flavors are too boring for kids. It's remember in the old days when Capri Suns? Remember that? You could never get the straw in there.
It used to always go out both sides when you tried to put it in at lunch, and then it would just leak, and you got about 3 sips out of the thing, and you were done.
Oh, and you know what? This links us back to insects. Yeah, because I know you guys didn't get enough before. Capri Suns would attract yellow jackets, which I have always found to be the most aggressive, nasty bug when it comes to sweet products.
Yeah, they're
my father's company used to have this company picnic out in the woods every year, and they would have these soda taps set up. And the yellow jackets they'd climb up inside the taps. They were just so aggressive. You'd pull the lever to get a soda, and 5 bugs would tumble into your cup, angry. Yeah.
Yeah, I as a teenager, your options for jobs are slim. So to supplement my babysitting gigs, I decided to work at a snowball stand.
Oh my God.
Which was the original food truck, I think. Because it was
the yellow jackets are crazy about snowball syrup.
The syrup, and we had to actually put cups over the taps after we used them, or they would be all up in there, and they were nuts. You could literally bap them and they'd come right back like that RoboCop from the Terminator. Like, what? I want more. So
it's funny. I wonder if when you apply to snowball stand or Rita's or a place like that, if you have to have a medical test to prove that you're not allergic to yellow jacket bites. Because those fuckers are going to get you.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was at least one sting a night.
They are the toughest wasps. Like, you can step on them and they just shake it off. I mean, they'd be trying to get my drink. I smack it. And I know it would go like 9 feet. It'd come right back, angrier, crazy. So, another indestructible bug, stink bugs. I mean, they're like the tanks of the insect world. I mean, besides being all but indestructible, they don't seem to require any sustenance. I mean, one time I was actually doing a repair on a light, and I took the switch plate off the wall, and there was a fucking stink bug just sitting there like, what's up? What's up? And I'm like, you have no source of light. You have no source of sustenance. How are you just chilling in there?
Yeah, I was getting out Christmas decorations from the year before in a sealed up tote.
Yeah.
Those, it's not like old
no
days
oxygen.
when we did cardboard boxes. It's a sealed up, tote. And I open it up and a stink bug just crawls out like, hey, thanks. Was waiting since last year.
Oh, yeah, apparently they're, yeah. So salt, you mentioned saltines. Saltines are kind of like that. They're kind of a food that can just stay up there for 100 years, They'll still taste the same. Of course, the reason why they're there for 3 years is because nobody wants to eat saltines, and also spices like curry powder and celery salt. I mean, we've had them up in the cabinet for like 5 years, and we never question using them. Like, do spices have expiration dates?
They can. I mean, after a while, it's like anything else, like the vitamins I was taking that I realized we're about 4 years old, and I thought maybe I might die. But if you look it up online, it just says they're less potent. So I think the same thing follows with spices.
No. Yeah.
But I tell you what can gross thing happen to dry goods is if you have them long enough, stuff starts to hatch out of them. Or I don't know how this happens. I've had weevils. I dated a guy who had he was really not clean. He had a big pantry and he was famous for like buying shit and forgetting it and leaving it for
Like
long.
food and stuff?
Yeah, like food for long periods of time, just going out. I mean, it was like shelves, like it was a big walk-in pantry.
Yeah,
And he got these crazy moths that were huge and they were so hard to get rid of. And
It's like the movie The Mist or something, but they just hatched out of nowhere.
yeah.
Ugh.
And they were eating like his paper towels.
Wait a minute, you said weevils. This is a picture of a boll weevil. Look at this ugly motherfucker. Now, these are bugs that can ruin cotton, like they're a cotton thing. And the crazy thing is that there's sports teams that are named the boll weevils. It's like a college team, and then there's a trucking company called Boll Weevil Trucking. I don't know why you would be celebrating this this animal.
Apparently, they're very tough. Maybe they like that. We're tough. We're boll weevils, and we're ugly, and we're here.
It does have the word evil.
And we're indestructible.
The word evil's in there, which is a great segue to our interview with Alan Averill. Again, so epic that we had to split it up. This is part one, a little bit more biographical, slightly political, lots of Thin Lizzy talk. Here it is.
We really enjoyed talking with Alan and hope to do so again.
He has excellent taste in Dokken shirts. Take it away. I used to have that Dokken shirt. I saw Dokken open for Twisted Sister on one of the handful of dates for the Come Out and Play tour before they realized that no one wanted to see them and put up the white flag, and Dee Snider made up the story that he had a vocal polyp.
Oh, right. So that must have been, what, 86, 85?
Yeah.
They're a band I've yet to see, Dokken. I mean, I've been in the same festival, but been leaving and going before or after. I mean, I'm sure it's not much to see or hear anymore, but I mean,
no, not anymore.
Well, I'm not one of those guys that I understand, like, for these dudes in between 60 and 70, they just want to keep singing and keep playing, so it's up to you if you want to stand in the same room as somebody and listen to it. I mean, look, Don has had however many, what has he had, cancer and surgery, this and that and the other. Yeah, and he's not really looked after himself, so his voice ain't much, but it's better than no Dokken.
Yeah, that tour was under lock and key, and that was when they had the kind of the disco-y outfits like the album cover. And then I saw him a couple of years later on Monsters of Rock, the year that Metallica was sandwiched between them and Van Halen and Scorpions and all, and they looked fucking ridiculous. I mean, the white high tops, and they came on after Metallica. That was not good. So. No,
that's not good for anybody back then.
Metallica in 88 or 87. That's not someone you want to follow. No.
I'm having a glasses now.
I must tell you, you've become quite a staple in our household. We say the stuff you say all the time. Yes, like
really?
Like this, like fuck middle age. See, we got that.
And your thing with Addie from Solstice, where you go through the Motorhead catalog.
Oh yeah.
You say heavy boogie rock, and I can't say it the way I used to say it anymore.
Yeah.
And quite often now, Mark says to me, "It left me on the shore,"
That's
and I'm
true.
like, "Where is this stuff coming
from?" And God damn it, Janet. Yeah,
God damn it, Janet. Well, God damn it, Janet is from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've picked it up. But I didn't used to say it with an Irish accent. Now I do. So.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's the thing.
Anyway, yeah.
So you've done so much in this business, from producer to lyricist to singer to, now a mastering engineer. Do you have a favorite hat to wear?
Well, I've made maybe, I guess there's 9 Primordial albums. There's a bunch of other EPs. There's 3 or 4 Dread Sovereign. There's another 5 or 6 albums I've made with various other bands. So I think I've done 22 or 3 albums over, if you include Blood Revolt, Void of Silence.
Yeah.
I did fanzines. Yeah, I book bands. I think, I don't know, it's I'm sort of relentless in that I don't want any downtime for under any circumstances. I don't need to relax. I don't need to stop. I just have to keep doing something every 3 months or 4 months. I mean, ultimately what I like is just being the singer in Primordial. That's sort of my life's work, but everything else is a sort of a sidebar or an addendum. And it's just, I guess, having devoted, 30 odd years to playing in Primordial, but also, I suppose, to music and heavy metal and stuff must be more, 35, 37, 38 or whatever. So I don't know. I don't think I really know anything else. I think I'm institutionalized,
You've been at this since you were about 16. What caused you to get into it at the beginning? What kind of spurred you?
Well, I suppose in the beginning it was maybe I was 8 or 9, seeing early bands like AC/DC and ZZ Top on TV. There was a show called The Tube in 1983 or 84. I remember seeing ZZ Top on that, seeing Motorhead on the Young Ones, and it just fell straight into that sort of 83, 84 hard rock thing, and it just sort of obsessed me. And then Iron Maiden, and all I ever really wanted to do was be the singer in a band or be in a band. And then I had my first band when I was about 12 or 13, in the first year in school. We had for Ireland quite a progressive school. Ireland is quite odd. Ireland has the most amount of single-sex uniformed schools in the whole world, which is either they separate kids and they have them with uniforms still to this day. But our school was quite progressive. It was mixed. It was non-denominational, which is quite significant if you know anything about Ireland. Fundamentally non-denominational, relatively secular, and we were encouraged to do music. So every Wednesday, me and a bunch of friends would go into the music room, book it, and bash out and try and play the Ramones and Venom. And we were about 13. And then literally 3 years later, we had one metal shop in Dublin. It's still there. It's called the Sound Cellar, which is quite important. And on a Saturday, everybody would go and hang out there, and there'd be hundreds of metalheads, thrashers everywhere. And there was an ad just up literally for an hour or two. Singer wanted for death metal band, and I was the only person who rang and the only person who went out to talk, to try out. And they didn't really have any choice. I think I had really super long hair and a Rotting Christ shirt or something, and they were like, "Oh, okay, so stuff that is more than Slayer and Metallica." And I just sort of got the gig, and then that was 31 years ago, and it's the same 3 core guys. Drummer joined in 97. Only one band member changed in 32 years, and another guy joined in 2000, 99, 2000. So it's the same bunch of dudes forever. And so, yeah, it's sort of, before you know it, then you're, in your mid-40s, and you've been doing it for 30 odd years. People assume that we're actually a bit older than we are, because we were only 15, 16, and 17 when we started the band, which is a bit sort of Scandinavian,
Yeah, you got a head start. I blame Catholic school for my dark path.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Are you sure you want to go into this?
Oh, well, yeah. I've already gone into it on other shows, but yeah, the nuns would just, even if you weren't misbehaving, the nuns would just kind of grab you by the sideburn. That fucking hurts. And they would be like,
nuns.
Is everything going all right there today, Mr. Marchman?
All right. Yeah, you were taught by nuns.
Oh, yeah, nuns. And
in Ireland, there was a separation. The nuns generally didn't teach the boys. The nuns taught the girls.
Oh, okay. Now, in our school, and I found out later that they could not find an outside teacher to teach us for the piddly wage that they were offering, $15,000, $16,000 a year when I was in school. So they made the nuns do it. So the nuns were under duress already, and then they had to deal with our hormones. So
okay, of course.
But I was a goner when Shout at the Devil and the first Wasp, and it just, there was no Boy Scouts was out the window.
Yeah,
it was rock and roll and females, and there was never any turning back. So that was my corruption.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Catholic schools here were called the Christian Brothers, and if you went to a Christian Brothers school, by and large, you meet people now who went to Christian Brothers, and you know about it once you've had a few drinks with them. Yeah. There's a lot of dark stuff comes out, but that's what we were doing. We were sending the euphemistic we, this Catholic Church, and we're sending out Irish priests all around the world to commit acts of
Yeah.
They
whatever.
what was that? They did a whole documentary on Netflix on some Catholic high schools uh in Baltimore that had just been connected to these old murder cases. That was crazy. And the murder has never been solved of this one nun. It was crazy, but all these girls came forward. It was hard to watch. It really
Yeah.
was.
I remember that one.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And that's where we're from, Baltimore, Maryland. So.
Okay, I've been to Baltimore twice to play Maryland Death Fest.
Yeah.
And I got to hang out in Baltimore for a few days before and after.
Yeah.
It was an experience.
Yeah. Have you seen The Wire? Because if you have, you already know what it's like.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
there's scarcely a problem with The Wire at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we Primordial never really toured America as much as we should have. It's one of the few regrets that I have is that back in the day, our ability to get over to America was pretty difficult when you got visas, flights, all the costs would put about a European band quite in the hole before they would even play the gig. And you had to come back 3 or 4 or 5 times to make any kind of money, at least if you managed to connect with an audience there. And we just never quite did it because, of course, and it became harder as we got older. And I think it's harder now for all bands because nobody's really a professional musician anymore can take the time generally to tour the States and tour Europe with the time they're given off work. Either you can do it before you're 24 or 25 or when you're much older and you have maybe you're established in your work arena, whatever you want to say. And so it's one of the few things that we regret doing, but we just couldn't afford to not play in Europe, which was the place that paid us something to play in America for nothing again and again and again. But certainly over the gigs that we did play, we got to see the middle America, which Europeans don't really get to see. I mean, they have their sort of concept of American cultural hegemony comes from either coast. And when you explain to people in Europe, well, you know, there's this whole bit in the middle, these kind of flyover states, and when you play in them, you begin to see the kind of American Rust Belt in all its sort of grim glory. You begin to understand an awful lot more about American politics, I think, which sort of escapes an awful lot of people in Europe. So it's fucked that we never got to play more, but we did play enough for me to see and get a relatively, I suppose, insightful look at that kind of America. Maybe I've just lumped your state and your town in with a load of other places.
It's okay. I need to cover before I forget. You're from the land of Thin Lizzy.
Yeah.
And I've been so passionate about that band my entire life that I've actually aborted podcasts because they said bad things about Thin Lizzy. Okay, well, that's never going to be listened to again. So
right.
Yeah, because apparently it's sort of these guys were saying that it's sort of a boomerish thing. It's sort of an elderly guy thing to be into Thin Lizzy or whatever.
Really?
I was like, okay, we're changing the station immediately. You know, that was the end of that. So
Right.
what was it like to live in the land of Thin Lizzy? I mean,
I can tell you some fucking strange and odd stories in the sense. I remember the day that he died. I came home, and my mother and my aunts were in the kitchen drinking, and my aunt used to cut Phil Lynot's hair in the early to mid 1970s. That's as far as I'll go with that end of the story.
wow.
I think there's a bit more to it, but she used to cut his hair. There used to be one sort of like boutique record store kind of place in Dublin, and where Phil and Phil's mother's house is on the same street as my grandmother's house in Howth.
Wow.
And I grew up at the kind of the end of the hill. It won't mean much to you if you don't know Dublin geography, but Howth Hill is kind of like a really nice sort of peninsula on the north side of Dublin. And when we were kids, we used to see Phil Lynott quite often going to the train station. You know, you'd see him around here and there. He was quite well known to see around Dublin, whether he'd be drinking or whatever. But in 1983, 82, so we would be like 7 or 8, and you'd see, oh, hey, Phil, and he'd be, you know, strolling down in his cowboy boots to, you know, get the train and stuff. And I have a memory of being about 7, and I lived on the other side of the train tracks, and we used to play football in the car park. And I have a memory of being about 7, and me and my friends kicking the football back and forth with Phil Lynott for about 5 minutes before he got the train off. He kind of came down and was standing there, and we were kicking the football at him, and he said, "Oh, kids," and kicking the football back and forth. And I told this to a journalist at Rock Hard after a few drinks, somewhere in Germany. "Oh, we're playing for a little," it's not really an amazing story, really, when you think about it, that we're little kids living on the same street, and he broke down in tears.
I'm on the verge right now. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, Phil in it was like the sort of, the archetypal Dublin kind of soul of Dublin defender, man who's willing to get into punch-ups and dust-ups with people for saying bad things about Ireland the world over. But it's hard. I mean, the thing about Tin Lizzy is that, and Tin Lizzy fans will kind of get on my case, but I'm not sure they ever made a stone cold classic album. a stone cold. In the same sense as maybe Back in Black or something. Don't get me wrong, their best, every album has one or two songs. I'm like, what's going on? Like I was listening to Renegade there only yesterday, and like you've got Fats, and what's the song about the Mexican something or other?
He had
like,
Mexican blood. Yeah,
I'm like, what's going on with this?
I agree with you on that one. You don't think
there's always
you don't think fighting is a front to back killer? I mean,
no, I mean it is, but there's always a little small element of like there's too much coke gone into this album somewhere, or it's like, Scott, you have a funky riff, let's do a funky song, or but no, I mean, look, they're one of the greatest rock bands of all time, without a question of a doubt.
No, I know what you mean. I feel that way about Kiss. I don't know if
Right.
I don't think Kiss ever made an album that didn't have a song that I was like, this sucks. I think it's true with Queen. I think Queen was more of a singles band.
Yeah.
There's their albums that's always a little bit of rubbish on them. I don't know. So I know what you mean, but I would never say that about Uncle Phil.
I mean,
ever.
I guess the problem is that if we're talking in the pantheon of like stone cold classics, I guess what it is that I'm not a man for the ballads and the funky bits and the blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I want Back in Black muscle from start to finish, so to speak. Kiss is the same. Kiss is a band who kind of leaves, like Kiss came back for Psycho Circus, I think it's 95, is it? 94.
God, yeah.
And they announced, we're reforming, blah blah, and they own one of the only places in the whole world and all of Europe they didn't sell out was Dublin. The gig was pulled. They were put into
I know they didn't sell out. I didn't know it was pulled.
Yeah,
Wow.
but it never happened. It was a 14,000 seat arena, I think, and the rumor was that they didn't even sell 1,000 tickets.
Wow.
Yeah.
I saw them again in Dublin about 7 or 8 years ago to about 6,000 in that same place and they were able to move the seats forward. But the Irish people just went, nah, we like AC/DC and Rory Gallagher, and it's too showy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Too glitzy.
No, I know what you mean.
Even though I do think I do like Kiss, and I also like the mid '80s Kiss, all that kind of,
Yeah. Yeah, we tease my friend's a U2 fanatic, and he'll always go on about the greatest Irish band is coming, and I'll say Thin Lizzy is coming, and he'll say no, and I'll go, Rory Gallagher's dead. No, stiff little fingers, and then he hangs up on me.
I'll tell you what, my uncle actually made all of U2's album covers.
I heard the thing about the Joshua Tree stuff, because you were talking about that during the Metallica debate,
Yeah, his name is
cool.
His name is Steve Averill, and he used to be in a punk band called the Radiators from Space in the late '70s. They were on Chiswick Records. They made an album, TV Two-Part, in 1977 or '78.
Chiswick's the label that had the Motorhead stadium.
Yeah, they had the Damned, I think, as well. They had first two Screwdriver records as well before they were a racial band, which are pretty good records. There's a whole lot of stuff on Chiswick that's really cool to check out. And they made the Radiators from Space, were like the first Irish punk band. And he went on, because U2 went to my school, where I went to school, the school I just told you about, the kind of secular artistic school. U2 went there in the 70s. And Gavin Friday from the Virgin Prunes, I think. Who are a kind of a band who've kind of slipped by unnoticed. But the first Warlock's Love Song, I think it's called. I can't remember the name. First Virgin Prunes album, first two are pretty good. About the few alternative rock bands in the early 80s, maybe from Ireland. But U2 went to my school as well. Dublin is a kind of small place where even over decades, people sort of know each other.
I have a book about Phil where it sort of suggests that he was always in a sort of a rivalry with Bob Geldof and the Boomtown Rats. Is that true?
That was more like I think Bob Geldof was a pretty polarizing figure back in Dublin, late 70s, early 80s. Everyone I talked to whether it was the Radiators from Space or everyone you hear from who are punk bands from, or, you know, I think you say you two would probably say the same with Lizzy. I don't think anybody liked the Boomtown Rats. I mean, you know, I think they're a fucking dreadful band personally. I mean, I don't like Mondays and all this fucking rubbish, but yeah, he seemed to be a pretty polarizing kind of figure. But I think it was that pushiness and whatever, that part of his character that allowed him to create Live Aid. So I suppose ultimately he's a man who's done some positive things.
So getting into like how you got into journalism and writing for Zero Tolerance, what kind of made you go that way?
No, it's I don't know. I did journalism with a sort of slant of politics and communications in college. Not really communications much because I knew it would be sort of redundant after a year. But I have a degree in journalism, like I said, with a sort of English politics slant on the courses that I took. Although I never really anticipated using it to try and make a living. I just fell into doing some reviews and some interviews, and the column that I wrote for Zero Tolerance is sort of turned into the podcast. And I do write some stuff, The Call from the Grave, but I mean, I don't do as much as I should, but I also can't bear the thought of taking even more hours to sit behind a computer to try and make a potted, awful living. I think that journalism is one of the careers, along with being a musician and a bunch of other things, that are pretty much ultimately sort of redundant in the last 10 years. And so, I mean, I think there's a great problem with modern journalism fundamentally. That
Kind of the fake news type thing.
It's not that. It's that traditionally, I suppose, 40 or 50 years ago, journalism would have been a blue-collar job in a sense that it was connected to working class people who were attempting to hold power to account, or, you know, speak truth to power, as in be outside the tent, pissing in. Whereas modern, I think, young people wish to be in the tent, pissing out. They wish to be among the powerful. And therefore, you can see this, especially in the last couple of years, especially with COVID and pandemic and lockdown kind of stuff, in the sense that an awful lot of modern mainstream media and young journalists seem to be against the people and for the state, in the sense that they've ceased to be trying to hold power to account. They're more willing to try and hold working class people to account. At least that's my serious opinion. And the other reason why I never did it is because I'm just lazy.
Speaking of that, I have a degree in German, and the only thing I can do with that is I can translate Rammstein songs for my wife. Yeah, basically. So.
Well, I hope the payment is adequate.
And also, I was reading about like how you do the backdrops and stuff. Do they commission you, the bands, to do their artwork, or is it something that you come up with?
That's a very old. I'm not sure where you're reading that from, but that's something I did about 15 or 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to paint them. The backdrops you see behind me are Primordial backdrops. I mean, everyone has these sort of printed ones now. But back in the day, 20, 25 years ago, I literally used to get, you know, when I'd fuck all money, arguably still don't, but I used to go out and get these sort of fire-treated tarpaulins and just chalk draw and then paint and do backdrops for all the local Irish demo bands. And if you see very old pictures of Primordial from the 90s live, you'll see my backdrops in the background. I did a few for some bigger bands, but I mean, realistically, they were for small demo bands playing in pubs. But that's something I did, I guess, 2000, 2002, 3. Just something on the side to try and earn a little bit more money, you know. But you've done your research.
So you're just getting over food poisoning.
Salmonella.
Salmonella, like
That's okay. Red wine kills that.
No, I'm just played a football match, actually, 11-a-side football match. Yeah, look, I was in Turkey, I was in Istanbul, and ate something a bit, well, you don't even have to eat something, it could be just somebody not washing hands or something, and spent a week, then half of my vacation being sick, which was not great. That was in southern Bulgaria and Serbia and stuff like this, you know.
Yeah.
But it's not a very exciting story. But I'll tell you what. I will tell you this for free. If you wish to lose weight and look slim and svelte, I just thoroughly recommend salmonella, food poisoning, or E. coli.
There you go.
Can give you 10 days of losing weight. Just,
Yeah,
prepare.
just a little raw chicken and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's fucking great way of losing weight. I think I've lost about what is it? It's two kilograms to a pound, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I like 6 kilos.
2.224 actually, but
Could that be
you're a
right?
numbers guy. Yeah, you're a numbers guy.
Okay. Well met.
I love your green goblet. We always go with the plasticware because we're just not good with glass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all wine
yeah.
glasses that will be dropped in this house after a few glasses of wine. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, green goblet that's pretty apt and pretty good description. Yeah, it's not done intentionally, but it's probably a colorblind choice. I don't know.
All right, so we play this little game, okay?
Swiftly moving on to 2003. Yeah.
I want you to pick
The early years.
Yes, the
yes.
early years.
Yeah.
Pick I want you to pick 5 numbers between 1 and 57, and they correspond to a getting to know you question.
5 numbers between 1 and 57.
You can start one at a time if you want.
Okay. 7.
All right, 7. What is your go-to dance move?
There we go.
I'm not a man known for his dancing. It has to be in another country, probably where no one knows me, and involves some illicit substances. My go-to dance move. Fucking hell. There's people who know me who would be laughing at this heartily. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I'm a dad dancer. I'm pretty convinced, right, that under it I'm a good dancer, right? Because I have hand-to-eye coordination, I can play sport, I can blah blah blah, I have rhythm, and then there's another part of me that is sort of, that part of me is fighting a sort of arch Victorian conservative morally on the other shoulder who is sort of like you'll keep your stiff upper lip and you won't express any joy. So there's a kind of internal struggle going on between those two, which comes out, I'm sure, in some pretty bad dad dancing. Although I do Elvis and karaoke, and I can do some pretty mean Elvis moves. So.
Okay, there you go.
All right, pick another number.
17.
All right, 17. What is a weird fact that you happen to know?
Know about me or just know?
In general.
Fuck, I know tons of weird facts. I mean, that's most of what my brain is filled up with. Fight fire with fire, 4 minutes, 44 seconds. It's just full of extemporaneous kind of nonsense facts and things that I don't really need to know about. I realistically don't really need to know about anything. You might have to be a bit more specific.
What kind of odd fact about you do you have, I guess, that people don't know?
There's lots, I suppose. That I possess a senior Irish hockey cup final medal. I used to play hockey. I used to play cricket. I used to open the bowling and the batting for Clontarf Cricket Club. I'm like a sport Billy, which is kind of unusual for a heavy metal miscreant.
I happen to know that you collect football jerseys. I
collect football jerseys. What people I think are confused by is that my surname is English, and so I'm kind of like, I was brought up in a secular family, a non-religious family, who were split between lapsed Catholic and lapsed Protestant, which is very unusual for Irish people. So there's only one family in the whole of Ireland who have my surname, just one, and it's kind of it couldn't say more openly that you're not Irish than my surname, which, considering what Primordial sings about, sometimes is quite unusual. Considering the politics of Ireland, has led to some very interesting debates over.
You're also in the club with me. You have a name that sounds like a limerick. Alan Averill, Mark Marchman. A friend of mine's name is Penny Perkins. So yes, welcome to the club.
There's a word for that. It's
like alliteration.
Alliteration.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll think of some other completely useless facts for you. In the duration, and I'll throw out a few.
I like the fight fire with fire fact. I could not. If you put a gun to my head, I wouldn't know the exact length of the track.
I know tons of things like that. Whereas I could have learned a language, I can go back and remember the liner notes to like Immolation's demo from '89 or something stupid. You know what I mean? Or just who engineered this album from 80 Bow Hill or whatever it is.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, no, yeah, we're the same because I can't remember very important things from my job, but I can tell you, somebody says Rick Rubin, and I'm like, he did Trouble, the self-titled Trouble. He did the Cult Electric. He did, you know.
You know, it's funny. My dad's one of 8, and my maiden name's Lynch, and he had 2 girls, and he kept telling me that Lynch was going to die with me. I'm like, Dad, you have 8 siblings.
Yeah.
Right.
One of them's going to continue. It's just not going to be your 2 girls.
Well, Lynch is a very Irish name.
Yeah, she's a Bonnie Irish lass. You probably know this. Yes.
Oh, yes.
I've never been there, though. My parents have, but I'd love to go sometime.
I've never heard that before from an American.
You know, it's a home. You know, I've always heard, and they had such a great time. So I was like,
I would just go to Phil Lynott Memorial places. That I would.
Yeah. Well, I mean, where I DJ, actually, I'll be DJing tomorrow is Brissell's Bar. That's the bar with the Phil Lynott statue outside.
Yeah.
With all the Phil Lynott pictures inside. The entire snug is Phil's face and stuff.
Wow.
That's where they used to drink in the 70s and stuff.
And I'm getting a little misty.
All right, pick another number.
27.
27. Have you ever walked out on a job?
Yeah, I walked out on a job. I walked out many jobs. I walked out on a job in about 45 minutes once.
Wow.
I was working in a call center, answering stupid phone calls for an American insurance company. The company left, and we all were moved over to this other sector. Basically, we were allowed to you could fuck about on the internet and blah, blah, blah. This is about 2003. And then they gave everyone in the room a geography test. And I thought, do I do this badly or do I do it properly? But my lack of hubris, or whatever you want to say, didn't allow me to do it badly. So then they called, I guess, the 6 people who did the best in the geography test out. And then I realized it was a round table, totally different job where you had open screens to the office. And I sat down and went, right, I'm not going to be able to just fuck about and do my own stuff here. So I just handed back in my card and walked out. And they sort of chased me down the corridor like, well, what is it? Is it the money? I said, well, obviously it's the money. And then it was like, well, this job requires getting up far too early in the morning, far too much responsibility, and you're all going to be able to see what I'm doing, so I can't be bothered. You know?
There you go.
I'm infamous for doing things like that. You know, I have hands like a young Liberace. They have done much work in their life. You know, I'm not meant for manual labor and hard tasks.
All right, you got 2 more numbers.
37.
He picks all 7s. What kind of car do you drive?
I don't drive.
Wow, at all?
No. You'll find that this is a lot of Irish people, especially a lot of heavy metal punk people in the scene. Dublin's a small city, and Ireland's a small country, and I think an awful lot of people, not an awful lot, but a greater percentage than you might imagine never drove. When you were in your 20s, there was early 20s. I left home when I was maybe 18 or 19 or whatever age it was. But there was a choice. You had the money for a car, or you had the money to try and rent a place. You couldn't afford both. And some people chose the car and a bit of freedom, and some people chose the house. And I chose the house, and then trying to avoid work for as long as I could. And insurance was too expensive, and I just sort of never got around to it. It's probably a good idea now. In the last 5 years or so, it's become pretty relevant that it's a pain in the arse. But no, I don't drive.
Do you guys have Uber stuff over there where you can, just use an app to get a car to take you somewhere?
Yeah, I just tend to use public transport or cycle.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's funny.
I mean, you can drive from the top of Ireland to the bottom in about 5 hours if you do it properly, or 6 hours. So,
yeah.
People in the United States are so, into their cars. We decided to sell my car. I had this little Fiat, and his friend was fixing it, and he said he kind of feared for my life in it. So we just got rid of it, and Mark takes me to work, and people are floored by this. They cannot believe that I gave up my car.
And cars in the US right now, especially used cars, are just top dollar because there's no cars available for some reason.
Really?
So yeah, there's no cars. So
Sure,
if
it's
you
pandemic related.
she's still getting calls from people wanting the car, and we sold it like 2 months ago. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's insane.
It's interesting. I mean, there's an awful lot of industries that are being squeezed, and you do have to wonder, is it something to do with this sort of and hard to explain without sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but seeing as I think that phrase is generally used by people who are too lazy to look into topics, and they just use it as a kind of general put down on things they've not really examined. The kind of agenda of trying to stop people fundamentally over the course of time from being reliant on their cars and this kind of thing. You do wonder if that has something to do with it, or maybe not. Maybe it's just some standard other.
No, I thought the same thing. I went to a guy that I always go to that installs car stereos. I had gotten one 5 years ago. I called him last year, in 2021. He said, "I'll do my best, but there's a major capacitor shortage. I might not have any car stereos." And I said, "Well, what the fuck do you do for money now? Because that's what you did." And he's like, "I install alarms now." So what the hell's that? There's a capacitor shortage? Okay. Feeds right into what you're saying.
It's complicated because the truth is generally in the gray area with most things. But I think that over the last 10 years, because people are so tribal now and so polarized, they've been conditioned to assume bad faith on the behalf of anyone asking questions from the other side, or from who doesn't immediately agree with everything that they believe or all their ideals. And so if you do hold up your hand and go, I have a few questions about, for example, the apparatus or structure of climate change. I have a few questions about this or that or the other. People literally lose their fucking minds. They do, and you say to them, well, do you trust your politicians, the elite political class, to tell you the truth about the agendas and motivations behind these new rules, these emergency new laws and that? Because I don't. And I think if you do, you're a fucking naive fool to at least not open the door to some form of skeptical analyzation of their motives. But people are so emotionally driven by so many arguments that it's almost impossible. And so, like, during the pandemic, they dug up Dublin to put huge cycle lanes everywhere. And they just took advantage of lockdown to dig up the whole city and squeeze people out of trying to drive into the city. Hotel prices, when they reopened, went way up. And you get the impression it's like you're trying to make Dublin city centre a sort of walk-around playground for the very rich, and price people out, working class people out into the suburbs or whatever further than that. And our government talked openly about 5 kilometre living, like this ideal of you live, work, play, drink, eat, all within 5 kilometres. Why do you need to fly to another country? Why do you need to this? Why do you need to that? And it all does tie into
very interesting. Yeah.
It all turns into a form of prep for climate lockdown. Which, and you want to say to people, like, yes, I agree that there's a discussion about climate change. There has to be. I'm not a fucking fool, but I also don't believe that the agents and actors of power within government, technocracy, and all of these kind of things are going to act in good faith when it comes to your freedom or liberty, and that what's going to be sold to you. Already in the front of the papers in Dublin or in Ireland is they're prepping people for blackouts in winter.
Wow.
Energy crisis, blackouts. Now I think what they're doing is they're overshooting the threat for clickbait, but also when the incursions into into your personal life or whatever come at 25% or 50%, you'll be thankful because you go, well, at least we're not getting full for our blackouts. You know what I mean? Like, you aim for more than you want to achieve. It's classic.
I'm actually going to show off something that I did learn with my German degree. And that is, whenever we would discuss the communist era with East Berlin and West Berlin, we had a phrase, and I always think of this when this type of discussion comes up. They kept the people ghettoized. Because it's easier to control people when, like, you think you heard that somebody in that neighborhood got grabbed in the middle of the night, but you're not 100% sure. I mean, I always think about that kind of stuff. There's a lot of that in the German literature about the communist era.
Sure. Well, I mean, there was more German Stasi. I mean, there was what they say that 1 in 4 or 5 people worked for the state, and they had everybody spying on each other.
Right.
It was way more Stasi than there was SS, for example. But yeah, there's you know, that's the way my conversations go, from very serious to complete nonsense. I don't really do middle ground small talk. It's either let's go straight to the Stasi, or let's talk about I sing Elvis Presley in karaoke. I don't really do middle ground.
We're getting the full gamut today, I think. Yeah.
I'm not good with small talk. But
All
yeah,
right,
it's
last number.
okay.
for
Sorry,
you.
yeah, go on. How many did I choose? 3 so far.
4.
4.
We're on
We
our
got one
last
more.
one.
All right, give me 47 then.
All right. Oh no. Are you ever mistaken for a celebrity? If so, who?
No, I don't really get mistaken for celebrities. I mean, people will always tell me. I mean, I get messages from people who go, "We listen to your podcast because we like your voice. It reminds us of Dylan Moran, or it reminds us of, you know, kind of Irish accents, and it makes our kids go to sleep listening to it. It's the oddest thing." But my voice gets mistaken for people sometimes, I suppose. Not really. I don't think I've ever been mistaken for a celebrity. This is a rather boring answer.
With your vocal styles, like Primordial and like Twilight of the Gods is kind of different. Is that just a different band, or is that just the identity?
Well, I mean, it's the same with Dread Sovereign. It's a kind of different singing. It depends. It's I want to have a different identity within each sort of project. I have another new band called Verminous Serpent, which is like Beherit, Sarcophago, Blasphemy style, and very, very primitive, kind of knuckle dragging, really primitive.
Raw as fuck black metal.
Fucking brutal. And within that, I'm doing like sort of old, I guess, late 80s Brazilian style brutal vocals. It's got a bit of Beherit, Blasphemy, Incantation, demo style or something. You try and have a different voice in every band. Also, all the bands have different lyrics, whether it's been Void of Silence, Twilight of the Gods, or Blood of Revolt. You can't write the same, you can't draw from the same well. And also, as you get older, your voice changes. So albums I made 10, 15, 20 years ago, I wouldn't sing the same way now. And so, yeah, the sort of brutal primordial voice, which sort of comes from there, and the other one comes a bit lower. And if you're singing high-pitched heavy metal, it's a bit more of a head voice. Yeah, you just try and find a different character. You've got to have a different voice. It can't just be, oh, it's that fucking primordial guy again every time. You know?
Yeah, because your lyrics are all over the place. It's like the 1968 Siege of Vienna, or like then another one, it's like the Cold War. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of
I mean, yeah, that's one of the things that I put an awful lot of time and effort into. I don't know how many people, I mean, there's a percentage of people who pay attention to these things, but I was always kind of lucky that I was very interested in English literature and poetry and history and culture and all those kind of things, you know, seeped into the band at a very early age, and found that whether you do the best with your ability when it comes to singing, in the sense that if you're not, we can't all be Dio, but if you're a solid 7 out of 10 and you can add textures to your voice and do the best thing with your ability, then you're sort of maximizing what you can do with your voice. But with when it comes to the lyrics, that just happened to be a thing that fell into my sort of natural remit very easily. And so where Primordial's always kind of had this different sort of cultural, historical weight attached to it. It sort of it sort of feels a bit like a sort of form of cultural inheritance, but in a sort of non-insular way. It's not really about Irish myth or mythology, or it's kind of opened out to, you know, it's something a bit more universal. But the idea that it's all got this serious weight to it. Because it just sort of felt to me that, like, if you're going to at least have a band for X amount of years, then try and say something with it, at least in as much as you can. It would feel that if I got to 60 and somebody said to me, so what did you do? you had a band and you sang about fucking zombies or fast cars, it would feel like a bit of a shame that you
Yeah, you do
didn't
a
use
great
the
job with
opportunity
that.
to try and say something, blah blah blah.
The sounds of decay!
So for our first Decay, this is Body Void from San Francisco. I love these guys. It's Janis, who does noise and electronics. I love that tagline. I always wanted noise credited to me.
I just
Eddie
wanted evil.
is on drums, and Willow Ryan is on guitars and vocals.
His first name's Willow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I love me some screamy sludge metal. I have everything I Hate God ever did. And these guys are part of the Church of I Hate God. You can tell. Think grief, think dystopia, think screaming the paint off the walls. This is not music to be played at a child's birthday party.
I kind of like the distorted, like rumbling guitars, and then the kind of the stuttering drums, and
I like when the drums fall away. By the way, the drummer's a freak. It's amazing. And it's just vocals and bass, just that bass in your chest and him screaming.
they seem to really like burning too. Like they're one LP.
I live in a, what is it?
I lived in a burning house.
Yeah. This
I
is
live
just,
inside a burning house.
yeah, this is not happy music, folks.
And
It is not.
although, they're kind of their last offering, which we're playing the song Burn, which is more burning, which is burn the homes of those who seek to control our bodies. And they're kind of talking out about people who want to control transgender transformations, or I like how they put anyone who has a uterus. So that covers the gamut without being sexist at all.
So this is the song Burn, and it's going to burn your eardrums. So get ready. That was just lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. It's like kind of an oral enema. No. Okay, sounds like Decay number 2. We move to Florida for Inhuman Condition.
By the way, fun fact.
Yes.
State with the least amount of heavy or death metal bands.
That wasn't the case in 1992, I can tell you that.
Oh, no, it's not Florida.
Oh, which is?
Mississippi.
Oh, they have the least amount now?
The least amount now. The most is Oregon.
Fun fact, yeah. Inhuman Condition from Florida features Jeremy Kling on drums and Taylor Nordberg on guitar, and they're both from a later inclination of the band Massacre, classic death metal band that goes all the way back to the Cam Lee era, as many of you know. They have formed Inhuman Condition in what, 2020?
Yeah, and they were joined by Terry Butler, originally from 6 Feet Under.
Okay, and I think Taylor Nordberg did a stint in Deicide, if I read that correctly, on Medalist Archivius. So I got to tell you, I was playing it side by side with the early Massacre stuff, and I thought it was just slightly groovier, but kicked almost as much ass. And it also kind of sent me into a tailspin because I started looking for that first Massacre album, and I know I fucking had it on vinyl at some
their
point.
Their name actually comes from a Massacre album from 1992. It's one of the songs.
Yeah. And I can only find the CD. So again, if any of you would like to send me a copy of the original Massacre on vinyl, I would really appreciate it. And
we also accept vinyl donations.
In lieu of that, let's play a song from the new Inhuman Condition album. You want to introduce it?
The new album is called Fear Sick, and we will play the song Recycled Hate.
Yay, Florida death metal.
Which is a good use for recycling.
Ah, yes, let's just get heavier and heavier. Sounds of Decay 3 is Exhumed.
Which we may or may not have tickets to see soon.
Yes, we may. The new album is called To the Dead, and it drops on October 21st on Relapse. Now, I wanted to read, this is an excerpt of a review I wrote for an Exhumed album. I think it's from Horror. I wrote it a couple years ago, and I just want to share it with you because it's a little silly. It's a refreshing notion that there's no conflict of interest with my reviewing an Exhumed record. No issue with my hermetically sealed vault of vinyl and polycarbonate treasures from Matt Harvey's posse of blood freaks, from demos to splits to remasters. My all guts, no glory coffee mug is filled to the brim with caffeinated goodies as I type. Clad in a worn casket crusher t-shirt, my dog's gore and metal sleeping on the floor just under my Death's Revenge poster framed and hanging in my man cave. Does anyone else find that the Anatomy is Destiny wristbands kind of lose their color a little after a few washings, even hand washing and hair dryer drying? Just curious. I'm not really allowed to bring up the band around the house because my ex-wife is a little miffed about the Exhumed songs that we piped into our wedding reception. I guess the wind beneath my wings is a little different than most. Anyway, what's more romantic than an Exhumed show at the Auto Bar in Baltimore as an anniversary celebration? It's all about commitment. That's my secret. Yeah, I wrote that a couple of years ago. I thought it was cute. So Matt Harvey, if you're watching, that one's for you.
Oh, and fun fact, do you know he actually started this band when he was 15?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. When he was 15. Of course, it's come a long way since then and come through a couple incantations, but
he's involved in a lot of projects. I like Pounder. That was a good band. One of his side projects.
Really liking this one.
So this is Exhumed. The song is Carbonized. Well, that was just Ducky. We covered a lot in this show, mainly insect related, I would say. Don't know where that came from. We were inspired by a fly in the basement. Interesting. So,
spiders and flies.
We learned who used to cut Phil Lynnett's hair, didn't we?
We had a great talk with Alan. I'm willing to spend any Friday night like that. That was a lot of fun.
With him and his green goblets. And you have another whole 45 minutes of that interview coming up next week.
So stay posted. And we also learned about Inhuman Condition and Body Voids and Exhumed.
Diet sodas.
Yeah. Which should not be. No one. You know what? I think you can still buy Tab. Isn't that horrible? I guess somebody somewhere is addicted to the taste.
Are they bringing retro sodas back? I could see that. I could see that. Yeah.
Why do I bring back Jolt Cola? At least that had sugar.
We used to go to the pizza shop, and we would, after we finish our pizza, we would have downed 4 Jolts, and Rob would make sure everybody was looking in, and he would smash the cans on his head. Good times. Hey, no Facebook back then, so.
Yeah. This has been the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast. Special thanks to Alan Averill of Dread Sovereign Primordial for his appearance on this show. We love you, Alan. Snaggletooth theme courtesy of Gustav Jord of Defleshed. By the way, new album out, Heads on Spikes, Grind Over Matter. Go check it out. Sounds of Decay theme courtesy of Steve Rathbone from Lair of the Minotaur. All content 2022. The Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.